Okay. Hey, okay. Sorry, everyone, if you just joined. We just realized there was some oddity with Zoom that was preventing people from joining. Brian Thomas is here? Wow. Wow. Hey guys, let us know what questions you might have today. Again, apologies for starting so late. We didn't realize there was some weird connectivity issue preventing a bunch of people from joining. Okay, Josh, here we go. Let me get my screen share back up. Appreciate you guys sitting around patiently and waiting. Apologies for that. All right, is there an easy way to rename the file when running a query to output to CSV? Okay, so let me, Josh, just to confirm, you've got a flow. That flow's running like a defined query step that outputs a CSV?
No, there's an option to have it go out to CSV, right? Get your results to
Yeah.
CSV.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to know if we can rename that file in that same step, or if we need to do an extra step to rename it.
Yeah, you'll need one extra step here, and it's not necessarily intuitive how to do it, but
yeah,
I'll walk you through it real quick.
Can you redo that? Just sorry.
Yeah, you bet. No, easy. This should be easier to do, admittedly, but hold on, my locals. Okay, log me out. It's pretty straightforward, but I don't know that you would be able to sort of like figure this out. It's kind of
I might have a few
silly.
I might have a few follow-up questions after.
Oh yeah, sure. All right, so here we go. Let's create a flow. I'm just going to use a raw SQL step just as an example, but it'll be the same. So here's a raw SQL step. My raw SQL step returns data. The return data type is CSV file or Excel file, right?
Yeah.
Right, and then here, if I put my SQL command in, I'll just select all the accounts, entity underscore account, and then output that as a CSV file. So what I would do is this. I'd put a create data step behind it.
Okay.
I'd define, I'd say a new file, create a string called new file name. In the new file name, I'd say update the file name to this.csv or whatever, right? And then on my output, I'd say rename, change value, and I'd pick result file data file name. As the file passes through the create data step, this will say replace the file name with this string and result.file, then you'd get the correct file name on the end. So if we made a quick form, I think we could show this on a file download control. So we'll create new, create.
So the create data step was a string?
Yeah, correct. Because I'm just messing with the file name, not the whole. I don't have to actually make a change to the entirety of the file object.
So that will change it from file1.csv to whatever I name it. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, but Josh, I didn't catch any of that. Can you restate that for me?
It will change it from default file.csv to whatever I name it .csv.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
So you can see here can you see the download pop up on the bottom left hand corner?
Yeah, I see it. Okay.
Yeah, updated the file name. And if you look at view input output, it's just a string. So if the file comes out here, file name is a property of the file data object. I change the value of the file name in the file data object, and then I pass the whole file object into this download control here.
Okay.
So you can do that, and then of course you can make that input dynamic in some way if you need to.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Whatever you might need.
I need to do this. If I need to do that, I just leave it as it was. And then to move that to a folder, just to move to folder step, right?
You want to deposit it into a decisions folder?
Yeah, or I can like right mouse click and just download it or something. If I need to review it at a later point. That
Okay, then yeah, move to folder would imply it's an entity. So we need to create,
okay.
so that won't work. So let's see.
Okay.
Add file reference to folder.
Right.
Let's
Okay.
see if we can get
I can
this.
never remember these steps.
Let's see if we can get this to work. Folder ID, I'm gonna just see if I can deposit. I don't know that this will work. I'm just gonna check here. I'm gonna pull the folder ID of the folder I'm in from the URL here. And list of references, I'm gonna say build array. I'm gonna say build data. And that doesn't give me file reference. Let's just search for file. Add file to folder, add file references to folder. Move file, that won't work. This should be way easier. Create file, we'll put it on the file system. Add file, we'll put it into, this is probably gonna throw up, I'm assuming there's no process folder here, right? Like it's just a normal decisions folder you're trying to deposit these into.
Yeah.
So result contents, name would be test. This is gonna fail on me, I'm sure. Test. I'm just gonna try this though. Run, fail. Exception is cannot add a document to a folder without a persistence folder. Okay, so if I attach to folder and then I put in my folder ID, well, this isn't gonna like this either, I guarantee it. Oh, well, there you go. I don't know if there's any weird effects to that. And Arc, man, you shouldn't have to do all that. That's really silly. That should be so much easier. But either way, so the file itself isn't an object in the portal, right? It's not like it doesn't have like the
Right.
context or the data to live in a folder. So what I did is I found the add file step. Now this step is in flow management. Flow management, maybe data. No, flow management. Flow, well, I don't know exactly where that step lives at. It's in, either way, this is meant to be used with like process folders or cases, but I can trick it into using a regular folder with this attached to folder step.
Okay.
Where I say treat the current folder like a process folder or a persistence folder, and then just put the add file step in there. So if we wanted to make this like really like dynamic, we could say new file name as an input, right? And we could say destination folder ID, both of which would be strings. And then under my create data step, I could say select the new file name string, and then under add file, or excuse me, attached to folder, I could say new folder, destination folder ID. And then now I've got this flow that can run my query and then deposit its file anywhere. In fact, if I want to even just create, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Whichever folder I choose.
Yeah, correct. Because now it's an input. If I wanted to get real silly, I could then add a third input, which would be raw SQL. You should probably just be able to solve raw, a SQL command to run, right? SQL command. And then I can pass SQL command into my raw SQL step. And now that gives me something like this. I could debug this. Destination folder ID would be my folder ID. My new file name is does this show.csv. And then my SQL command would be select star from entity account. Then I could save it as a unit test named test1. And I can run that, and I should have a file named test. Oh, hold on, add file. Name would, it needs to be new file name. Okay, debug, run. And now I should have, does this show CSV? At which point now I can just download that from the place.
Okay.
So, and probably on attached to folder, I don't need to use save flow data. I should probably deselect that. And let me just make sure that still works if I rerun this. Okay, then I have two of them now. So yeah, something along those lines should get you what you need there.
Right. Okay, that's very helpful. Yeah, okay, this is a great start. Probably in a week or two, I'll have more questions on, I have to do cleanup on this folder also, but I'm gonna try that myself before I take up time.
Yeah, sure thing, man. Happy to help. What other questions do we have from anyone in the audience today? Nothing else from anyone? Again, apologies for the weird late start, everyone. Here we go. Is there a way in email response handling to only accept an alternate response and not the outcome? Oh, let me give you the, oh, hold on. Hey, Dave, let me give you the chance to talk here. Is there a way in email response handling to only accept an alternate response and not the outcome? What do you mean by that exactly, sir?
So you know how when you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear.
Sorry, my internet went down, so I'm having to do this on the phone. When you put a form and you want to create an assignment, you want to set up email response handling.
Yep.
You have to set up the process, the scheduled job to look at the email inbox and it searches and it looks for I guess a keyword or a response.
Yep.
When you set that up, you can use an alternate response. And my understanding is that at that point, it would use the outcome name or the alternate response, right? So we have a client that wants to use an alternate response and only that response, or a set of them. And I guess, I mean, if they want to change it on, like, because they want to keep it quote unquote secured so nobody knows what the response is, right? I guess my question is, like, it will accept the name of the outcome path as a valid response, right? So if I just do like approve and reject, that would work. But if I set up an alternate response as orange or blueberry, it would accept those too. I guess to keep the flow clean, and then those outcome paths downstream from that, I guess I don't want to have to rename and remap the outcome to anything downstream of that if they want to change it, right? If that makes any sense.
If they want to change okay, so what could cause you to have to remap the flow? They change the alternate name?
Yeah, they want to change what the response is, right? So let's say they say I want my response to be the word orange and only the word orange. Well, okay, I could set up my outcome to be called orange.
Okay.
But later on, 6 months down the road, they say, well, I actually want it to be apple. Well, then I would have to change my outcome. And I guess I'm curious, like, if I change it from orange to apple, does that affect anything I have it mapped to downstream?
No, because each alias doesn't come out as a separate output path. They all go down. So like on my screen, you probably can't see it. You mentioned you were on the phone, but I created an assignment. On that assignment, I have an outcome name and an action name, both equal to the string approved, right? And then under alternative responses, I've put some partial versions of the word approved.
Right.
On that step, though, only approved comes out. So if you had an outcome and someone didn't know the actual outcome name, like your email is going to tell them, hey, please use XYZ to approve this, right? You're not going to tell them you're not going to give the end user the outcome name. You're going to give them the list of approved alternate responses, right?
Correct.
And then if you need to update alternative responses by either adding or removing or editing them, you just change them in this on the step itself. That doesn't change anything related to the outcome mapping. And then you update your email body so that it, has the more up-to-date information in it. You shouldn't have to do any mapping there.
I gotcha. So basically that approved outcome, so right now you set up the alternate responses. And so if I were to respond with any of those or the word approve, the outcome name, it would move forward.
Correct.
So if I just name the outcome name something
absurd,
completely random,
right?
that they would not be able to guess.
It could be a GUID. I mean, there's no reason it couldn't be like some stupid GUID,
Yeah.
Otherwise, if that's not acceptable to your user, then just build your own custom like email flow, right?
Oh, because as
on a
long as you
scheduled
put the
job.
response ID in there, you can send an email and have it still process the response. You can use the step to do that, right?
Yeah, you could build a custom one. Like our email one for support is totally custom. Like we look at the email body to find a hidden ID. We use CSS to hide the ID. We bound the ID with special characters. We then use like split string and stuff like that to find the ID. Once we find the ID, we know what ticket it's associated with. And then you could do the same thing, like find the responses, look at the responses, see if it's in the approved response list, and then if and only if it's in the approved response list, go do the necessary.
I see what you do. Okay, I got you.
So yeah, something like that.
Okay, yeah, that sounds like a plan.
Any other questions about that?
No, I think I'm good. Appreciate it.
If I've turned my video on, can you guys see me when I do these things? Well, assuming my video worked, which it doesn't. I guess should do video, huh? I found a plastic samurai sword in my office, and now I can't stop that working. I can't stop swinging it around. So, it's my very own, like, what was that Jedi kid video? Like one of the first viral videos of that kid with the broom. Anyways, wow, Dave hated that so much he exited the call. I have that effect on people. I believe it. Okay, who else has got any questions? Anybody got anything else? Yeah, go ahead, Josh.
If there's nothing else, so if I want to if I don't want to store these files forever, that I'm making. So if I wanted to, like, after they're 4 or 5 days old, delete them.
Yeah.
What's the best way to do that?
It'd definitely be with a scheduled job.
Right. Okay.
So what type of object is this thing? It's a document. So you could build a flow like that did something like it could be something like this. So we could, I can fetch the document. Yeah, so fetch a document, use a fetch entity step. Imagine this is running at the end of every day or something, right?
Yeah.
And you're gonna find the document in a particular folder. So you put folder ID in. Let's just assume it's static. Let me get my folder ID back. I'll pull it back out of the URL here. So let's say it's static, and then you could say for each of those documents, you could check the created on date, and you could say, let's do greater. Let's see, I'm gonna get the created on date out. Do I have to calculate? Yeah, how about this? Let's say if it's 8, okay, I'll just say add days, right? I'm gonna add days. So the number of days I'm gonna add is the source date is gonna be the created on date. So item, which dot created on date. Okay. And then I'll say like after 3 days. So you have to create it on date plus 3 days is equal to the current date. Let's see. Is greater than or equal to, is less than the current, yeah, less than. All right, so less than, date less than or equal to. So end date would be current date and first date would be add days one output. And then I'll just use a placeholder step, something like this. I probably have my logic wrong here because I usually do it wrong the first time. I'd say this step would say delete file, right? It would be whatever the delete step is. And likely this is like a delete. Maybe I should just use the right step. If I think there's a delete entity step. There's a delete entity step here. And so entity ID would be, oops, select value from flow, item dot document ID, and then go back to the next one. Otherwise, do nothing. Something like this.
Got it.
Something like this would work.
Sounds good.
So you would fetch the documents in the folder, loop them. You'd add a couple of days, and then you check that date, and you'd say, is that day, is it created on date plus 3 days less than the current date? If so, delete it. Otherwise, go to the next one. So anyone that met those criteria would be cleaned up. And then you just put this in a scheduler and run it.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. All right. Anything else from anybody? Let's see. Jens, I don't recognize your name. Any questions from you today? Anything I can help you with? Okay. All right. If that's everything for today, who do we have tomorrow, Maru? Is it Noah?
Sorry, yes, Noah Yon.
All right, Noah's tomorrow. All right, thanks everybody. Please share the word about a lunch and learn so we can make sure these are helpful for everyone. Have a great afternoon. Talk to you soon.